Penguin Random House Audio presents The Amazing Adventures of Aaron Broom by A.E. Hotchner. Read for you by Michael Crouch. Happening 1. Olive, where it comes into 10th, is very busy, what with the streetcars crisscrossing there, and the Scruggs, Vandervoort, and Barney department store busy with all its shoppers, though to tell the truth, in these hard times, more lookers than shoppers. So it's the last place in the entire world you would have expected something like this to happen. Broad daylight, June 28th. Summer sun already hot enough to marshmallow the street tar. Fans whirling in the Cardinals' dugout, pushing the steamy air from one end to the other. I was sitting in our Ford in a blind alleyway where my father had parked it, across the way from J&J Jewelers. He had a 3 o'clock appointment to show his samples of Bulova watches that were in a large leather case with wheels that he could pull. He had me in the Ford to watch out for the repleveners in case they showed up. It was my father's constant worry, wherever we went, to keep tabs on the repleveners, who he said were 2 guys from the finance company who had a court paper called a repleven that allowed them to snatch our Ford because my father had not made the regular payments for many months. The truth is, my father couldn't pay anyone anything, including the electric company, the gas company, and landlords, saying that, in a depression as bad as this, everyone should hold their horses. When I asked him how I'd recognize these repleveners, he said I couldn't miss them. One big and fat, with a walrus mustache, the other tall and skinny, both wearing black suits and derbies. If I spotted them, I was to sound the horn 4 quick times. He would come lickety-splitting across Olive and speed the Ford away while I was to go across Olive and get the Bulova case. I didn't think the jewelry people would hand the case to some 12-year-old kid. But I didn't say anything to my father, because I thought the repleveners would not be way downtown on Olive looking for this rickety Ford. My father had been on this repleven lookout for many months now. Another thing, no matter what, my father had warned me, 2 streetcars collide, Scruggs Vandervoort burns up, you don't leave Bertha. Without her, I can't cover customers on my Bulova list, and I will be back trying to sell those god-awful glass candlesticks. He was talking about the hollow glass candlesticks filled with colored threads, with red threads coming out of the top like pretend flames. He used to go door to door trying to sell those dumb candlesticks. But with everyone depression busted, they were not in the mood for fake candlesticks. Or actually, they weren't in the mood to buy watches either. But he did get $25 every week from the Bulova company, and that paid some of the charge for my mother's keep at the Fifi Sanitarium in Creve Coeur, plus bought us a little food, but not enough to pay even part of the rent. He'd only had this Bulova job since March, and he was very anxious to make some sales so he could keep it. Most of the watches were just cases with no insides, but all lined up in rows inside the sample case, they were something beautiful to look at. Sitting in the Ford, broiling in the afternoon sun, I watched my father pull his sample case across Olive to the J&J door, where he pushed the button that would buzz him in. As he started to open the buzzing door, a fat man with a beard wearing overalls and a sloppy tennis hat, the rim down around his face, standing on the sidewalk, quick got in behind my father and followed him into the store before the door closed. Right away I felt funny. The way I get when I feel bad news is coming, like the doctor listening all over my mother's back with his listener in his ears. And I know before he says it that Mom had to go to the sanitarium. The way that fat man got in back of my father gave me that feeling. I strained my eyes to watch the J&J door, hoping to see my father come out pulling his sample case, but it didn't happen. What did happen was the boom, boom of gunshots, the big glass window with J&J Jewelers on it shattering to pieces, the door flying open, the fat man in the floppy cap coming out with a bag in one hand and a gun in the other that he was putting in his pocket as he walked down the street, and disappeared among the Scruggs, Vandervoort, and Barney people. With the door open now, I saw my father with his sample case coming toward the door, but before he could make it out, the traffic cop came running with his gun in his hand and pushed him back in. I thought maybe I should go over and try to help him, but as I started to roll up the windows and lock the Ford, 2 more cops showed up in a cop car, and the sidewalks flooded with onlookers. The sound of sirens screaming like swords cutting the air was getting closer and closer, piercing my head. I was on my knees behind the windshield to see what was happening, numb, unable to move or clear up my head, the crowd being pushed back from the jewelry store by the cops. 2 cops on long-legged horses who had been on patrol were now forcing their horses through the crowd, making a way for a siren-y ambulance to get to the store. A cop who had been guarding the door now opened it as 2 men from the ambulance hurried in, pushing a stretcher on wheels. I tried to see inside as the door opened, hoping to glimpse my father. But the door quickly closed, and in no time it opened again, and the ambulance men came out pushing the stretcher, this time with a man on it covered with a sheet. People in the crowd jostled each other, trying to get close to the stretcher for a good look, the horse cops having to push them out of the way so the stretcher could get back inside the ambulance. It took off as soon as the door closed, its siren back to screaming, pushing its way through the stubborn crowd. From where I was, I couldn't tell if the man on the stretcher covered with a sheet was dead or alive. Happening 2. The worst was yet to come. The door opened, and there was my father coming out, the sight of him making me feel good, but only for a second, because instead of his sample case behind him, there were the 2 cops who had come in their cop car. That's when my heart stopped. Instead of pulling the sample case, my father's arms were bent in back of him, and on his wrists were handcuffs. Handcuffs? But why? What was going on? He didn't shoot that man. The fat man did. I should run over and tell those cops what I saw. The fat man sneaking in. The fat man putting a gun in his pocket. But before I could move, 1 cop opened the back door of his car. My father got in. The cop closed the door and got in the front seat beside his partner, who drove away, no siren, and woof! My father was gone. To jail, I guess. I sat there dumbed out, my brain scrambled, no one to turn to, afraid. I felt crying coming up, but I am not a crier, and I tried hard to put it down. I was roasting in the Ford's furnace that was getting stoked by the St. Louis sun. I pushed myself to open all the windows, but the air that came in was harder to breathe than the air inside. The rubberneckers had thinned out a little now that the ambulance had disappeared with the guy under the sheet. But there were cop cars and cops hanging around the J&J store, which meant that things were still on the skillet, so I better figure out pretty quick just what I should do. Our life had given me some preparation for that. I had gone to 11 different grammar schools because my father had signed all those depression leases, the ones where landlords gave 2 or 3 months of free rent. We'd pack up the night before the free rent ran out and move to a new place that offered a whole new period of free rent. Landlords were all in terrible shape because of a glut of vacant flats. I did all right in the new schools, because one thing I am is a whiz at writing, and when the new teacher saw the sentences this new kid could string together, their eyes would light up, and sometimes they would even advance me a grade. But my best experience was last summer, when we were all living in one room in the Westgate Hotel on Kings Highway in Delmar. That was the time that the doctor at the clinic sent my mother to the Fifi Sanitarium to treat her lungs for consumption, which is what they called it. It was also the time my father got a watch strap line to sell what he called on the road being Illinois and Iowa. I didn't think watch straps would light up a lot of buyers, but they did give my father a break from the glass candles that he kept under one of our beds. Of course, my father going on the road meant I would be living alone in 303. He arranged for me.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?